So this might have been the best cinematic experience I've ever had. I've had some good ones, but this is probably the best, and for a few reasons. One would be that not a whole lot of people in the audience talked throughout the movie, especially when we got to the end where there isn't a huge amount of dialogue. There's a little bit. There's some dialogue between Natalie Portman and Jennifer Jason Leigh, and then you hear Oscar Isaac on the video, but it's mainly just Natalie Portman going to the lighthouse and figuring out what's happening at the lighthouse. Another reason I would say it's the best cinematic experience I've had is because it's the second movie I saw that day. I went and saw Black Panther, and then I thought to myself that I really want to go see another movie, so I looked at what was playing. I saw that, and it looked interesting. I didn't know anything about it, which is also kind of disappointing. I'll get to that later, but it looked interesting, and it was playing in the next 20 minutes or something, so I got a ticket and went. I was just very, very pleased going to see a movie blind. It's always fun when you go see a movie blind, and it's really, really good. The reason I say it's a little disappointing I didn't know anything about it is because I didn't see anything about it. There was no promotional material, at least not that I saw. It might have blurred past me pretty quick, but it wasn't really that prominent. Now, it also came out early in the year. It came out in January, so movies are usually not promoted quite as heavily as when you get into the summer and the fall. I think the biggest reason it wasn't promoted so heavily is not just because it came out early in the year, but it's because there were women in it. I believe that's the case. Now, when Ghostbusters, the female Ghostbusters, came out 2 years earlier, there was promotion everywhere. But I think that had more to do with the fact that it's Ghostbusters. It's a name. But I think it would have been kind of sidelined like this was. So I think of this as the female Ghostbusters. If you look at it, they kind of look like Ghostbusters when they're going into the shimmer, with their guns and their backpacks on. But it wasn't a known name like Ghostbusters. And this is what the female Ghostbusters always touted itself to be, which is full of strong female characters that you can look up to. And this really does have that, except for the fact that these characters have real jobs and lives one could have. I think this movie is vastly superior to Ex Machina, which is Alex Garland's movie before this. Ex Machina is good, but for some reason it just seems a little, dated. There are a lot of movies I like that are dated, but they weren't dated when they came out. I think just overall this is a better movie. It's definitely Natalie Portman's best performance that she's given in a long time. I'd say even better than Black Swan. But the movie is just so good. It's moody, and it's eerie, and it's creepy, and it's scary. I think everyone will agree that the bear is the scariest part of the movie. It's certainly scarier than I think it's a crocodile is what it was. Because that was a jump scare, not an incredibly good jump scare. Kind of, I jumped. But the problem with jump scares is that after you've seen the movie a bunch, you don't jump anymore. It might take, 5, 6 views before that happens. It may take just 3 or 2. But that's why jump scares aren't really the best thing to lean on when you're doing a movie, because they don't hold up over time. Then you've got the really eerie, creepy stuff like the moving intestines, which in a way you could classify as a jump scare because it's surprising, but it always has an effect on you every time you watch it, unlike a jump scare. There's an aspect of this movie that I found completely unnecessary to clarify, and that is Natalie Portman's affair with the other teacher. We get all the information that we need to know in the first scene between them, so there's really no need to show the sex scenes between them because they don't really add a lot more to the characters. So that brings me to the visuals and how good this movie looks, and just how well they replicated that on this disc. I said in my review of A Quiet Place that 4K disc is probably the best 4K disc in my collection, and I think it still is, but this one is probably in the top 3. It's not going to surpass something like A Quiet Place because A Quiet Place was shot on 35mm film, and this was shot digitally on Red. And you're of course going to get better results by scanning film natively into 4K than taking digital footage that was shot in probably 6K or 3.4K, which is typically the norm, and then upscaling it or downscaling it to 4K. And on this disc you have a Dolby Atmos track, which it was mixed in, so that is consistent with the release of the film. And I'm all for that, as I have always said. Just keep it the original, especially when you're dealing with these 4K discs. So if you have an Atmos system, it's going to take full advantage of the soundtrack. Okay, so this is a fantastic movie. It's one of the best 4K discs I own. I highly recommend picking it up. Okay, thank you very much, and I'll see you next time.